Hey, everybody, welcome to a bonus episode of How I Built It. This episode is a bonus episode because it's actually most of the replay of a live stream I did over on YouTube. I'll link it in the show notes, in the description for this video. I did clean it up a little bit. I removed like the shout outs to commenters and things like that. But this is a conversation between Ronnie Burt of Automattic and myself on understanding AI's role in online course creation. Ronnie has a background in education, so much so that he mentioned MOOCs, which is, I think, cool. I've obviously been a longtime educator across a number of mediums, and Ronnie is also the business lead, a business lead at Automattic who oversees development of the Sensei LMS plugin. This episode is brought to you, this live stream as well, was brought to you by Sensei. So if you are looking for a great LMS plugin for WordPress that gives you quizzes and direct integration with WooCommerce and heavy use of the block editor, there's not another plugin I can recommend. So check out Sensei. You can get 20% off at howibuilt.it/Sensei. That's SENSEI. But the topics that we cover are managing emails for your online courses, AI's role in assisting with online course creation, Sensei's upcoming AI quiz generator, and a few other things around AI philosophically and what it means for the future of online course creation. So I hope you enjoy this conversation between me and Ronnie Burt. And without further ado, let's get to the intro and then the interview. Hey, everybody, and welcome to How I Built It, the podcast where you get free coaching calls from successful creators. Each week, you get actionable advice on how you can build a better creator business to increase revenue and establish yourself as an authority in your field. I'm your host, Joe Casabona. Now let's get to it. So let's get into managing emails, and this is something that I don't think enough people think about until it becomes a problem. So like for me, I had a membership site set up with, I think it was WooCommerce memberships that would automatically register new members in all of my LearnDash courses. And I was like, yeah, this is exactly what I want. But what I also had was an automation inside of LearnDash called follow-up. It was like an add-on called follow-up emails at the time, where you can send emails to students based on actions they take, right? So when they register, when they complete, after this lesson, if they haven't logged in for a week or whatever, right? So any of these things can kick off an email. And so I had one welcoming them to the course, except I had it for every course. And so when they got registered for every course, they got an email, a discrete email for every course. I had about 10 courses on the site at the time. And they also got their receipt, and they got their welcome to the membership. And so their first experience was getting 12 emails by making one purchase. And I just never thought about it, right? Because I plugged and played a few things, and things work as I tested them, except, the secret is that my user was already registered for every course. So I just tested the payment gateway. So let's talk a little bit about this and email reminders and things like that, because again, I think like an online course is, you can have horror stories like mine, but you can also create a really good experience for the learner if you have those set up the right way.
I mean, some things that come to mind is first, I think we all think that there's email fatigue, right? I mean, email fatigue is real. We are inundated by, most of us, probably hundreds of emails a day. And, as a result, we're seeing open rates on email lists, like mass marketing email list, maybe going down, and things like that. But if someone's interested in your course, or like, we do actually read a lot of the emails that are sent to us, right? And so I just, what I'm getting at is, like, I caution people against saying like, well, emails don't matter because no one's going to open them, or I'm afraid of sending too too many emails. Like if they're engaged in your course, they're going to want to see that email, see what's next. It's like the best way, really, that we have, the best tool that we have of communicating directly with those people that have enrolled in real time, like when they need some information. So things that we've done is, first of all, like I've been around WordPress long enough to know WordPress isn't built to be an email management tool, right? And depending on your host and the configurations there, like the deliverability of emails sent via WordPress can vary a ton. On if you're in a shared environment, that IP might be flagged and more likely to end up in spam folders, or just the way that the email is written, more likely to be flagged as spam or not be received. We also have just recently added some pretty big integrations with MailPoet and with Automate Woo, which both in different ways can help with customizing the emails. MailPoet works really well to help with the deliverability issues with email. Also, like you mentioned, SMTP, depending on your host, they might have things in place that can help there. But it's something to look into if you're relying on these emails, making sure that they're delivered and not showing up in spam. And so when we're adding email tools in, we're trying to add in ways that we can like do everything that we can to make the spam gods happy. And also don't feel bad about like um, not being able to keep your emails out of spam. I'm a big Google like fanboy, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in all the Google groups and like only use Android products and everything pretty much. I get emails all the time from Google itself that end up in my spam folder in Gmail, which is like a Google service. So if Google can't figure out how to send me emails that don't get marked by spam, I don't feel so bad. It's a complex issue, but
Yeah, that's such a good point, right? Because
it's
I mean,
worth
like,
looking into though. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, awesome. And you mentioned MailPoet. MailPoet came into the Automattic fold a couple of years ago, I think, right?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly when, and it also, is works really closely with WooCommerce and automating all your store purchases and stuff there, and just making those look better. So what we've done is now you automatically get a MailPoet list for everyone that's in a course or that's in a Sensei group, so that you can send
Nice.
out mass emails, or you can use some of their automation tools like. Just a whole bunch of different possibilities that it opens up. You can send an email based on if they purchased a specific product in the past or something like that to a course. So
Yeah,
you can get pretty creative.
that's awesome. And I mean, that makes perfect sense, right? Because I think, again, one of the things that, I mean, I've been in the WordPress space since like 2004. So like before WordPress had pages, like it was literally just a blog when I first started using WordPress. Um, and and the people in the WordPress space and developers and agencies, like, they would do this piecemeal thing. But I think, especially moving into the creator economy, which is who I'm talking to mostly now, um, they're not hiring an agency to set up their online store, right? And they're not. And so these are integrations that they need to think about. And I mean, to WooCommerce's credit, especially, like, the onboarding process is really good. I think it's really good, at least. Someone who's used a lot of WordPress plugins, and most are just like, if there's nothing when you install the plugin, I either think like, well, there's nothing to do, it's just doing its thing, or like, now I've got to hunt down the settings page. But like, WooCommerce, I think, does a really good job of like putting things front and center, and like, you probably need this, like tax calculation, whatever. And so having tools that integrate like that are, I think, super important. And MailPoet, full disclosure, they years ago sponsored my podcast. But I think they're doing a really good job of that.
Yeah, and I think it's this connection piece of getting all these tools. Like we want to play nicely with everything we can, with membership plugins, with other mail services besides
Mm-hmm.
MailPoet and all that too, because that's the beauty of the ecosystem that we're in, is that you get to choose what you need and what works for you at that time, and not pigeonholed into one thing.
Yeah, absolutely. You get to choose your service. So let's move into the main event here, right? There's enough dilly dallying. Um, let's talk about AI. Let's talk about AI a little bit first from like a philosophical standpoint, right? And then we'll get into kind of the practical applications of course creation. Thinking about it for a couple minutes, I think probably what I use it for in podcasting is very similar to how it could be used in course creation, but I'm really curious to hear what you have to say about that. But again, um, what is your personal philosophy? I mean, I
Yeah,
can
it's kind of
go.
why I reached
Yeah,
out to you,
yeah,
because
yeah,
this is
yeah,
what I'm developing it. And that's like the
yeah.
first thing off the bat. I have done nothing but listen to dozens and dozens of podcasts from experts on this, right, over the last couple of months. And I don't, um, I mean, none of us are experts because this
Right.
doesn't exist yet. We
Yeah.
don't really know what the potential is going to be. We don't really know, where this is ending up. But I have to say what I want instead of a philosophy. What I hope we get out of this is, I don't want us to get to a place where the robots, the AI is writing our entire course for us, or writing an entire blog post for us, and we just blindly like hit publish and run students through that course or something like that. I think I've already seen, we have people doing that. They're like, "Oh, I can go create 10 courses this weekend, copy paste it in, sell it, and try to make a quick buck." The downside of that is, well, first of all, the AI is still sometimes giving you, bad information. It's hallucinating. It's telling you things that are not necessarily true. So we first, we need to be mindful of that. But that's not going to be an engaging course. I think a lot about course creators, and I believe 1,000,000% that like putting people through courses, having a bunch of courses available for people to sign up for, learn on their own pace at their own time, things they're excited about and interesting in, like that's not going anywhere. It's a good industry to be in. It's really a needed thing for the world, really. And but if we have a whole bunch of really bad, low quality courses out there, and that's someone's first experience as a student,
Hmm.
like they're way less likely to ever go try again. And I think we saw that with MOOCs like 10 years ago, the massive
Yeah.
online open courses or whatever they were
Right.
called, that universities were rolling out left and right. They were not good learning experiences for the most part, because they were thrown together quickly and they just tried to like convert a textbook into the course. Millions of people signed up for these things. The completion rate was like sometimes like 1% or something,
Right.
like really low. No one signed up for a second one, right? Because they didn't have a great first experience.
Yeah.
And
Gosh, that's such a throwback that we talked about that when I worked in higher ed like 10
yeah.
years ago. Um and first of all, I'm a New York Italian and mook is like a derogatory term where I come from. The first
Yeah.
time I heard the VP of IT at the University of Scranton say mook, I was like, "Hey, who are you talking to over?" Like I just got very like, can he say is he allowed to say that? But I mean, to our credit, like we never like rushed to roll out one, right? Like we really and like by the time, well, I left before this, but like again, by the time we were kind of like ready, we kind of saw the pitfalls of it, right? Because like if you're gonna just throw like if I want to learn something, sure, I can go read an academic paper on it, but like you said, it's gonna be an awful experience. Like I'm gonna have questions. It's gonna be so boring. Um, And that's almost like what I think about when I think of like AI generated courses. You're basically just saying like take all of this information and spit it out on a page, put it into lessons you think it should be in, right? Which is not thinking about the learning experience.
No.
Because like AIs can't possibly know that, like how each individual will learn. And so, that's kind of what I thought about as you were talking there. But I'm sorry, I interrupted your philosophy, but I
No,
really
I
wanted to
like
get that.
that.
Yeah.
I like that. And so where I hope we're going is that, well, on a couple of fronts, you can now like have some of that boring stuff though, that research, like writing the textbook for you almost, right? Now
Hmm.
your job as the course creator is to put all of that extra stuff, the extra elements into the course that make it interactive, make it engaging, building a community around the course, possibly, adding some collaborative elements, one-on-one coaching with the instructor or group coaching with the instructor. Those sorts of things are going to be really what set courses apart. So this idea of like evergreen courses that are text-based and like hands-off automated, I think we're going to have a handful of people maybe in certain niches like be somewhat successful with that, but by and large, like the real value from this is going to be if we can help put tools in the hands of creators that go way above and beyond that, right, and make that accessible. um, so AI can help us build the foundation, which we can talk more about, like specifics and prompts and all that. But um, I don't know. I mean, what do you think about that? I'm developing this, like, in real time, constantly evolving in my thoughts.
Right.
So
Well, because I mean, like, I mean, this is maybe recency effect, but I can't think of another technology. And again, I've been in technology for over 20 years at this point. I can't think of something that evolved as rapidly as like generative AI tools. Um, and so like I've talked about it a little bit on the podcast, and like I had to like put a disclaimer like, hey, we were talking about this in January, and it's like March now, and things like everything's totally different. All and so, um, and so like it is that constant evaluation. The other thing I think, again, as you were talking, what made me what where my brain went was the idea of the flipped classroom, right? So like anybody who's unfamiliar with the idea of the flipped classroom, it was that the student would essentially like read the lectures at home and then do the assignments in class. And when I first heard about this, I was like, "Oh, this is brilliant, right? Like this makes so much sense. You read the material and then like you work through the comprehension with your fellow students and teacher." But then I actually started talking to my students about those like who had experience with the flipped classroom. They're like, "Oh, they would just make us like watch YouTube videos," and I'm like, "That's not okay. That's not a learning experience, right?" Again, all of this information is out there, and part of the educator's job is to curate and filter it, and put it into a lens that works best for the people you're talking to, and not just throw a bunch of information at them. And so, like, totally, AI tools can help us do that, right? You can write a prompt for ChatGPT that's like, I want to teach a group of 10-year-olds how to make their first HTML page, right as an expert web developer talking to a group of 10-year-olds. And like, yeah, maybe you'd get something, but like, maybe not, or like, certainly they're going to have questions. Um, Certainly they're going to have questions that AI can't possibly anticipate. And so, um, I think that it's a very good assistive tool. It's a good research tool. I remember when like Wikipedia was first emerging and every teacher wanted to ban that because it wasn't a good research tool, but like you had to it's a good first I think it's a good first step, but it's not going to give you your first draft or your final draft rather.
right.
It's going to give you some prompts. It's going to give you some prompts to then go and look for more information.
Yeah, and look for like how to make it relevant, how to tell stories that are personal to you as the educator, or maybe that connect specifically with the learner. Then you're gonna want to. I mean, to me, my whole like education philosophy is learning is doing, not
Mm-hmm.
getting, right? And
Yeah.
so, um, you know, we'll have to build ways into the courses to have the students do something that demonstrates that they've explored that new content or whatever it is, or played around with it, or created something, or built something. Or maybe it's in a traditional sense, a quiz or something like that. But um, that's really what makes the course, or those experiences. And so, anyone that might be listening that is creating learning experiences, like always be thinking about what can you have the student do? Well, AI is not giving you that. Maybe you could ask, what could the student do to demonstrate that they've done this? Or, and I've tried that a little bit, like what's an activity that I could do when I want to teach this concept? And it, depending on what it is, it gives some decent ideas that can get you unstuck. But then you know like how much time you have, what resources are available, all that that you would have to then tailor it and put it into your course. But the course shouldn't be about the content, because as of now, the content is trivial. It's everywhere. Like your content's not unique. The
Right.
actual words on the page are not unique. Um, so it's got to be the experiences that are the uniqueness.
Yeah, I like that. I always say learn by doing as well. I want my courses. I want people to have tangible experiences after they take my courses. I want them to walk away from my course and have something virtually in their hands, right? Because I'm usually teaching people how to do things online, but like, hey, I took this course and I made that. The average student retention rates when they learn something, it's like lecture reading is 10%. Um, and then practice doing is up to 75, right? And like 90% is teaching others. But um if you are just giving, to Ronnie's point, right? If you're just giving people something to read as their course, they're not going to retain that. They're not going to remember that. Um, you probably, I mean, if you're watching on the live stream now, if you're listening, maybe you don't even remember what I just said, right? But like practical doing is going to give you a 75% retention rate because you're forging new memories of you're like forming new pathways for like actually doing the thing, right? That was probably the idea of the flipped classroom, right? In
It was,
theory. Yeah.
and I don't have it in front of me, and it's been a while, and I think it depends on the topic, you know, the content, the age of the learners. But I think there was some research that showed, especially younger kids, where a lot of this was used, like that
Mm-hmm.
actually didn't show gains in instruction, like in educational outcomes in many ways, and that kind of surprised a whole bunch of people.
Yeah.
Um, but you know, other ways to incorporate that doing into your course, having forums like BB Press forums or comments, threaded discussions, having peer review of work, building that collaboration in. Um, you know, there's all sorts of tools that we could add, and AI is not going to generate that now. You should expect today that your students are probably going to be using ChatGPT to
Mm-hmm.
like answer those discussion questions or whatever. But you know, that's kind of on them, and that's a skill we're all going to learn how to figure out. You know
Yeah.
what that
You know,
really means for us.
I will say, right? You asked me my philosophy. I did write a blog post a couple weeks ago, um, called like Chat GPT is exposing like a weakness in our education system or something like that. Um, where I basically talked about how uh, is exposing our broken education system, right? Because my theory, right, and I think based on what you've said, you might agree with this. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but um, if teachers are banning ChatGPT from the classroom wholesale, first of all, you're now depriving students of a skill that they are going to need when they get into the workforce. Like you're going to need to know how to leverage generative AI. Um, but also, um, but also that means you're just giving assignments that are regurgitation assignments, right? Like if you tell me to write a paper about like the Battle of Shiloh, right? And ChatGPT can write that paper and it covers everything that you told me I had to do. That's not a problem with ChatGPT. That's a problem with the assignment. Like you're just making me memorize and regurgitate, right? Instead of like critically think, right, about the Battle of Shiloh or whatever.
I completely agree. And you know, for course creators in so you know, we work with people of all different types of courses that they're creating, right? There's some that are for like certifications, and you have like strict either legal obligations or like something that you have to make sure that they know and that are taught is covered. And then you have much more fun, you know, hobbies and things like that that people that we, you know, all sorts of stuff. And then everything in between. It depends on your course, it depends on the topic, but you definitely want to bring in community some way.
Mm-hmm.
And the option for that. Um, However you can, even if that community is external to the course that you're just opening the door to or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And now that we've gotten that out of the way, right? AI tools can be helpful. And I think something that um, we're teed up to talk about is something that I always struggle with, right? I make courses for LinkedIn Learning. And if I'm not doing a coding course, right, where like the doing part, the assessment part is obvious. It's like take this code, write this code, right? And usually I'll like say, all right, well, let's write this code, pause this video here, try to do it yourself, and then we'll walk through my solution. Um, if it's not that, then they want me to write quiz questions, and I hate writing quiz because like they're so to me they're like so contrived. The way I write them, I'm really bad at writing. I just say that right off the bat, right? It's always like four. One is, I think, the obvious answer. One is a very obviously not the answer. It's like just totally out of left field. Um, and then, but it's like it's something I spend, I think, a um inequitable amount of time on when it comes to creating the course. But it sounds like Sensei is about to integrate something that could maybe help me.
Yeah, this is our first tool that we're building in, and so what we wanted to avoid was not having this like chat interface that you have everywhere else
Mm-hmm.
with AI tools. We just kind of want it to be magic wherever we can. And so you already have a lesson in Sensei, and the lesson has content. Then you can click a button to create a quiz. I mean, that's how it works now. When you do that, we'll ask, well, do you want us to generate a few quiz questions for you? And we did a lot of testing, and we found that like ChatGPT usually writes three good questions. If you ask for more than three, they get really repetitive.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were just showing three quiz questions, and for now they're multiple choice. But what I like about it is we can take it a step further. We then asked it, will also display why the right answer is correct and why
Mm,
each wrong answer is not correct. Like, why is that the wrong answer? And then so when the learner is taking the quiz and they choose the wrong answer, they'll immediately get the feedback that, this is why this is the wrong answer, and here's the right answer, and here's why. So it's like reinforcing right in real time. And you know we could do that when we're building the course, but like you said, it's pretty time consuming. It's also a little challenging. um, and I think I've been playing with these a bunch, like it kind of helps train the course creator too, like on writing better quizzes and writing better
mm,
feedback, so then you can
yeah.
extend and write a fourth and a fifth. And we don't want you to just use the quiz questions exactly as they come out of the box. Like, we're hoping you're reviewing them and making sure that it's a good
Right.
question and like it's the right answer and all that. But um that's just like one way of starting, and you don't have to worry about writing a prompt. We're customizing those prompts for you all in the background, and then putting it into the blocks, so no copy pasting or anything like that. It transforms it into Gutenberg and into the quiz editor, which
That's
is pretty
awesome.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. And like the why is it right? Why is it wrong? Like that's another thing that I really struggle with. I'm just like the right.
Well,
I feel like when I write why is this the right answer, I can also put that in the why is this the wrong answer, right? Like it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
why is A the right answer? The A is right answer for these reasons. Why is B the wrong answer? For the reasons that A is the right answer. But that's like
But it
not really helpful, right? It's like
and you want to just kind of copy and paste what you've already written because you already wrote the right answer, up above or
yeah,
whatever in the text.
right.
But ChatGPT does a pretty good job of like writing it in a slightly different way that might connect with them a little bit better,
Right.
or something like that, and not feel super repetitive. So, that's just the first thing we're playing with. Um, right after that, it's getting to creating. We found that just creating the course outline, which you can already go to ChatGPT, or I've been using Bard a lot too.
Nice.
I think that
Google Stan
ChatGPT, yeah,
established earlier.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, and so, um, you can already ask it for a course outline based on the course topic and all that. But what we're doing is well, you have to put a course title in when you create a new course, and we ask you right after that what like the objectives are of the course. Well,
Mm,
now we already have all the information we need to write the prompts for you.
yeah.
So then we can generate an outline and say, do you like this? You can just start blank if you want, like you're not forced to use it. But if you choose to use it, you can easily customize it, edit it. But hopefully, the goal is to get people to publish their first course faster. That's like the metric we're trying to improve because
Yeah.
we're a business, we have to be. Um, and
But I mean,
similarly with
also like
lessons,
starting a
same
course
thing.
is like the hardest part, right? I mean, for
Yeah.
me, it is. Some people,
Yeah.
there are like people who have a hard time starting, and some people have time like getting a hard time getting over the finish line. I am 100% in the starting.
Yeah.
I will stare at a problem for like a week and be like, yeah, I really got to start this. But like again, generative AI has been that made that a little bit easier, right? And like getting an outline, at least like you said, gets the ideas flowing, and that's like super helpful. And so, yes, like you're a business, you want people to make more courses, obviously, but like that is also extremely beneficial to the course creator who probably wants to get the course done as soon as
Oh yeah.
possible so they can start selling it, right?
No, we want to make tools that makes their lives easier and better, and a
Yeah,
better end result of the course and everything
yeah,
like that. Helps them learn how to use our tool as well, because that is kind of the hardest piece, is that very beginning, just getting
right.
used to the course. And so if it already has the lessons laid out there with the titles, it all just makes a lot more sense to
Yeah,
teach you how to use the tool, which is a big part of it too. And we'll do the same for lessons. We know the lesson title, we know the lesson objectives. I'm nervous about this one. We're not going to publish it if it's not good content, but like
mhm,
I'm hoping we can write it in ways like tell a story around this topic, or
yeah,
like try to make it more engaging, or ask discussion questions for this topic. So it's not just like regurgitating a textbook of content, right? Like it's going to vary based on what the topic is, that it give you some lesson output, help build some of that, interactive elements into the lesson for you.
yeah. I really like that. Because usually, when I start on a course, the first thing I'll do is this is like course or book, um, is I'll like do a mind map of like everything I know about the topic, right? And so like even if I start there, right, I could still ask ChatGPT or Bard. Which by the way, I tried Bard when it first came out.
It's
Um,
not as good, I'll be honest.
yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like Google's like scared of how good it could actually be, and like they're probably throttling it a little bit.
Oh, interesting.
Just based on what I've read pre Bard coming out. Um, but like, is that changing rapidly? Because I know like one of the things that Bard can do that ChatGPT can't is like get the content of a website, right?
Yeah, it does that. And I used Bing actually a lot too.
Oh,
Like I'll
nice.
test them all, and Bing
Yeah.
is ChatGPT 4, but it does the website stuff. And I really like the way it cites its sources and tells you where it pulled
Oh,
the information.
dang,
One,
that's
yeah,
awesome.
one thing I like about Bard is it usually gives you three versions of whatever it writes. And so you can immediately see what's different between the three versions. So that's pretty cool too. And I'm hoping we kind of build that in, maybe with, it's kind of like we're doing three quiz questions. You can
Right.
choose to have all three. But with the outlines, we might have it do a short course outline or a more complicated course outline with like modules or something, so we can show you the differences. Um, that is something we're actively kind of looking into.
Did you read Bill Gates's article about AI, like the future of AI and how it could help people?
I don't think I mean, I know I didn't read it. I've heard
Mhm.
bits and pieces of
What I My biggest
reference.
takeaway and what I liked best from it was he basically said that my job is safe, right? Educators, the world's always going to need educators, and the world's always going to need nurses. So like my job and my wife's job are safe. But uh, to that point, right? Anybody at this moment can look up anything they want, right? You can find information on anything, and but that doesn't mean that schools and educational institutions are eliminated, right? Because you still need someone with the experience to discern and distill and filter out the garbage, right? Um, and so I think like what we're talking about here is how Chat GPT or other generative AI tools can help us make better content, give us better ideas, right? Because we, as educators, we still only have like our personal lens, right? So like, I mean, I don't want to disparage programmers. I am a programmer, but like I've said this before, right? Where like I'll be talking to a client and they'll want a feature and I'll be like, why would you want that? Right? Like, which is just such a conceited thing to think and say. Um, but like the same could be said in the education setting, right? Like I might not think of something that the learner might need to learn, whereas a few good prompts from ChatGPT might show me like I'm teaching WordPress and most people don't know the difference between a page and a post. That comes from a real life experience where my student was like, "What are you even talking about? Like, what's the difference?" So things like that, if you can short circuit that incredulous look from an 18-year-old student, ChatGPT could save you a lot of pain.
But you know what? You made me think a little bit about ChatGPT is so text heavy, and I know that there's some like generative like art and image tools, and even videos were getting there. But
Mm-hmm.
we've kind of been on this trend away from reading a lot of text and moving into like these like TikTok like videos for
Right.
everything, right? Like if you can't teach it in a quick uh, portrait mode TikTok. I mean, forever it was like, how dare you record a video in portrait mode, and
Oh,
now,
I know.
and so like that's a good thing that educators have to remember. Like depending on the topic, depending on the learner, you kind of set it with their needs. Like some things somebody might be able to read and understand. Others, they might be better if they hear it or if they see it in a video or if they get to draw it themselves or whatever. So when we're building our course, we can incorporate all these strategies whenever possible. Give
Yeah.
people the choice, and we don't have to funnel them through the exact same experience as everyone else taking the course. We can give them their options. And that's really what I hope this like AI will help us be able to build those sorts of like just experiences faster.
Yeah, and this is something I talk about with like content reuse, right? I've got students who are like, "How am I supposed to make all this content?" Like, well, it's record the podcast, use generative AI to get a transcript, have ChatGPT clean up that transcript and make it readable, and then have it summarize, right? Oh, and now you have a LinkedIn post, right? There is, if you are creating text-based courses, like maybe you're not good on, like maybe I mean, Thomas Jefferson famously delivered his State of the Union State of the Union addresses. There we go. Um, via written word, right? Because he hated speaking. Um, but I was just looking at this tool by 11 Labs. I don't know if you've seen this one. You feed it a sample of your voice, and then it will, generate text to speech with your own voice. Um, does a pretty good job if you have like that North American kind of accent and dialect. Um, I think I was listening to a podcast with John Voorhees, who's from like Chicago, and Federico Vitici, who's from Rome, Italy, and definitely worked a little bit better for John than it did for Federico. So probably a very U.S. centric tool right now, but if you're in a position where you can create audio content, you're not comfortable in front of the mic, yeah, that could be an opportunity, right? Or vice versa. AI tools are giving us the ability to meet the learners where they want to be, which I think is super great.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I can write a blog post or an email like in no time. That's just a
Mm-hmm.
skill that I've developed. But when it comes to trying to record a video, like it could take me all day to record a minute because I just get stressed out about it and want to re-record a million times and all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
See,
Maybe
this is
there's tools
interesting.
that are available that are going to help me, right? Like I
Right.
can write it out and like get it out quickly.
I think it's really interesting when you think about those things, right? Turning on a video and talking is energy. Like it takes a lot of energy. The camera steals energy from you. So, um,
But
yeah,
these tools can be a great equalizer. I mean, I think
yes.
about people with dyslexia or dysgraphia, like, or anything really. Like we can,
What's dysgraphia again?
it's writing issues, like especially handwritten, like
Okay,
handwriting and getting their words onto paper.
gotcha.
Um, like, we have such good tools with text to speech that really helps.
Hmm.
Um, I've even seen people use like copy paste in a whole bunch of text and say like rewrite this in a more friendly format for someone with dyslexia, and it takes out there's some
Oh
tools that people are
wow.
working on just for that. But like it's just these tools will hopefully be an equalizer for those of us both wanting to create content and consume, right? We will all be a little bit more on an even playing field,
Yeah,
which would be pretty cool.
absolutely. That's awesome. That's like one of the things everyone's like, why does my podcast need a transcript? Right? I'm like, well, there's like a lot of reasons, but some people prefer to read. And like the argument will be like, well, our podcast is so conversational that like just the transcript would be terrible to read. And I'm like, all right, well, let the reader make that judgment, right? Like, don't be like, you won't like this anyway.
Well,
um, yeah,
similarly, if you have a video-based course, a course that's heavy with videos, like not just having the caption option, but like you can use an accordion to hide it, but put the whole transcript in there, right?
yeah,
So someone can expand, but you're also gonna like benefit search if someone's searching through your course. One of the things that I don't know how long this will take or how useful this will be, but I feel like we're going to have these chatbots that follow us on every website we visit now. So
hmm,
the idea is like, and we're kind of looking into this, like an AI tool where you could chat with the course.
yeah.
And, so having that transcript in there is going to make building these tools and add-ons later so much better. So I would definitely think
Someone
about that.
just told me about a tool like this. It's not on this piece of paper. I thought it
Oh,
was.
oh,
But it's like you feed it a bunch of your content, video content, audio content, and it transcribes it, and then you basically say like, where do I talk about this was a real estate example, right? So like where do I talk about HOAs? And this chatbot comes back and it's like in this video at minute 9 you talk about HOAs, right? Like so these tools are already being developed and that is absolutely bananas to me.
And even more than like search results like that, it'll like synthesize like what did we talk about with HOAs in there, and it'll
Right.
like summarize instead of you having to read the transcript. And so I feel like that's coming. I don't know how far in the future, but your course will have a chatbot that someone can like ask questions of the course.
Right.
Um, every
Just like
website has it with documentation and all that sort of stuff. So
yeah, completely indexed, right? And then this
yeah.
is I mean cuz this follows the trend and I'm aware we're coming up on time here. So if anybody has any questions for me or more importantly Ronnie, um, leave them in the chat. I'll make sure we get to them. Um, but the trend for the last few years has been um, I first heard Chris Badgett from Lifter use this term, like just in time learning,
Hmm.
right? Where people have a problem they want to solve and they want to find course material in that moment to help them. And so the tool is called Searchy. I'll put it in the chat here. Um,
Oh, nice.
but this is the tool I was talking about that like indexes your own content for you. This is like definitely something I'm going to be playing with probably on the next live stream. Uh, either that or like generating an outline for my next book idea. But uh, having a tool like this means that you can have over 6 or 14 hours of course content and like that doesn't feel daunting to the learner anymore, right? Because I think this was like another thing that like course creators felt like they had to do was just like put as much content as possible because content equals value, but like outcomes equal value. um
And
so
these micro courses are like a big thing and a good,
yeah,
I mean, you can learn so much in 15 minutes,
yeah,
and like,
absolutely.
and you could sell that easily.
Right.
Um, and get good value out of it. So
Yeah, that's like a tactical error I made recently where I've got over 100 videos, probably like 125 videos on podcasting, and they were all in kind of self-paced courses. They were mostly in one big self-paced course, and I just kind of turned it into a membership where you could search for videos. And I thought this was really the way to go, like Netflix style, search for your topic. What I didn't anticipate was for like I kind of priced myself out of the market for my target audience, but also like sometimes people don't know what they don't know, and so if I give them a micro course or a mini course where it's like how to start a podcast for less than $400, oh well, that's the thing that they know they need, or how to get your first podcast sponsor, right? Now, let's not think long term about generating hundreds of thousands of dollars off of sponsorships. Let's just talk about getting your first sponsorship. Is that worth $50 to you? Well, yeah,
yep.
totally.
And then you can cross sell, upsell,
Right,
link,
exactly.
all that sort of good stuff,
Yeah.
especially into like a one-on-one coaching thing or whatever it may be.
Yeah,
So
that's exactly right. And the mistake I made, learn from this mistake, friends. Um, I tried to bundle it all together. Like you get all 120 videos and live cohorts with me and a one-on-one session with me, and I thought I was throwing in a lot of value, but it kind of sounds overwhelming, right? And so like people who bought and now we're 6 months in, they're like, "Do I still have that one-on-one coaching session with you?" Like, and maybe if I let more people buy it when they're ready, right? If I get them in and I solve their immediate problem, then the upsell, the cross sell is better. And so, um, not really generative AI, but just like kind of the theory of I think we're moving towards away from by the college degree, right?
yeah, yeah,
and, and we're moving more towards like by the skill, right? We're moving from like the big like 4 6 year universities to the trade school again.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, I want to wrap up here with uh we touched on the stuff that you're doing. Obviously you work for Automattic. Automattic has a lot of different tools. Automattic, for those who don't know, they run wordpress.com, own WooCommerce, and therefore Sensei, MailPoet, Jetpack, a lot of other things that I'm probably forgetting. Um did I miss anything major there? Did I name all the major properties? I should
Well,
probably
for
have.
anyone listening, Pocket Cast, it's my favorite.
Pocket Casts, of course. Um, God, and Pocket Casts is amazing. Hashtag not a sponsor, but I really, um, the web interface is still like the best of any podcast app I've ever used. Um, yeah, so great point. Pocket Casts, lots of other great stuff. So, is there like an overarching philosophy inside of Automatic? I know Automatic has for a long time been very like let the teams do their things, ship. But as you've grown, maybe you've gotten a more like company wide philosophy. Does that question make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense, and it's a little bit of both. I
Yeah.
mean, I think Matt Mullenweg, our founder CEO, like posted in a publicly in a post status channel recently, like he thinks everyone across the entire WordPress ecosystem needs to learn AI deeply and experiment, and it's like I think like everyone, it's taken over. Like it's something every team is talking about and is thinking about how to incorporate in their own way, and that the teams have the autonomy and to figure out what works best. Everything from like tools that we're using internally, like I now have a chatbot to ask like how like Sensei's subscriber numbers are changing over time or
Mm,
whatever, instead of looking
that's
for a
cool.
graph, all the way up to like getting it into the hands of users, creating content in different ways. Also a big focus around we have so much content from forums and from courses and from blog posts, about how to use WordPress, WordPress.com, and all these sorts of things. That like, how can we use AI to help synthesize all that and get the user what they want to know from a support aspect. So it really runs the picture there, but it is like every team for themselves. We are working on like some centralized like um, API tools that we can all use as so that like some of the dirty behind the scenes under the hood work can be taken care of for us so we can just build faster, which is pretty cool.
Nice. That's amazing. We'll have to get into this at a later date, right? But like customer service is probably a really good place where AI could be helpful, right? And this is
Yeah.
like the first quote unquote chatbots. I feel like chatbot has a totally different meaning now than even like 2 years ago. But like you would see that in the chatbots that you have the little bubble on the site and it's like, hey, how can I help you? Like the support chat, and it's like, oh well, oh, it looks like you said the word migrate here. Like, have you looked at these FAQ articles? And
It was rarely what you needed, right?
it was
And
rarely what you needed, right? But like now, right, it feels
yeah.
like it'll be less rare.
And also like the folks, handling which their job is unreal and I could never do, like handling multiple live chats and tickets
I
and like
know.
helping people all day long, like they're the heroes. But they also have access to this data and it's like a lot to keep up with
Hmm.
too, to help them like search and find the right way to say it that worked for someone in the past or something, right? And
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
absolutely. I'm gonna end with a question that I'm curious about because I know for a while every new hire at Automatic had to work support for 2 weeks. Did you have to do that?
I did, yeah, and I had to do Woo support, and I had never really used Woo,
Oh
and
wow.
so it was quite eye-opening, and I'm due for getting back in there for a week.
Nice. Yeah, is that
Yeah.
something that you can just like optionally do at any time, or you do
It's
like a
once a year. Everyone
once a
needs to do a week.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
That's such a good thing, right? I just migrated to transistor.fm for my podcast host, and the guy helping me support was also like the co-founder, Justin Jackson, and I just thought that was like such a great thing. Like, oh well, like because some people are like I'm the CEO and like they're too good for like the grunt work, but like he's like, yeah, let me help you with that really quick. Just really
No,
cool.
absolutely everyone in the company. I mean, from like the accountants and the lawyers to the developers to everyone.
Wow.
So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I know. I've seen screenshots of like Matt jumping in too from time to time, which is cool.
Yep. Yep.
That's amazing. And then the last thing I'll just mention here is of the Automatic products that I think are worth mentioning that I forgot to mention. We already mentioned Tumblr. Day one, the journal app, which is super cool. Nice to be like, I feel like Automatic is a good steward of that app. And Simple Note, which again, I feel Automatic has been a good steward of that app. So, looking for notes, especially for Android. I feel like Android. I mean, when I was on Android, it was lacking.
Yeah.
Uh,
I haven't
Simple
used
Notes
it in
was
a
easily
long
the best
time. Simple
Android
note.
based. Yeah, it's been a long time
Yeah.
though. So
No, I mean we're all in on open source and making the web better and not just through WordPress,
yeah,
which is pretty cool.
awesome. Well, Ronnie, this has been great. Thanks so much for joining us here on the live stream today. Thanks to Kedma and Wanda and all the lurkers who were watching or who will be listening to this later. If people want to learn more about you, where can they find you?
I wrote a post on using Conmigo, which is Khan Academy's AI, on my blog at ronnieburt.com, but you can also check us out on senseilms.com for all the good stuff we're doing there.
Nice. And yeah, I will make sure to have, again, links in the description for both this video and the podcast episode. But um, this episode has been presented by Sensei. So if you go to howibuilt.it/sensei, you'll get a little coupon code if you want to check out Sensei for your own online courses. I'm going to find this blog post as we speak and link that in the show notes as well. So, oh, great. I found it. Oh, very timely. Thank you, Ronnie. Um, Accounting Cafe, thanks so much for being here. I appreciate you. Really interesting. Thank you. Ronnie, thanks so much for spending some extra time with us
Yeah, it's
today. I
fun. A lot of
appreciate
fun.
it. All right.
Yep.
Thank you to everybody watching/listening. And until next time, get out there and build something.